Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, President Buhari vows to deepen and institutionalize the anti-corruption fight in Nigeria. Visiting U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry canvasses global action against corruption as part of measures to tackle terror. Nigeria Labour Congress hits the streets across the country in protest, demanding justice over the killing of 2 workers in Nasarawa State. And Turkey steps up offensive against Islamic State militants in Syria, orders residents in border town to evacuate.
And in business news tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria suspends 9 deposit money banks from the foreign exchange market for hiding over $2 billion belonging to NNPC.
And in sports news, Court of Arbitration for Sport (CAS) dismissed Russia's appeal against decision by the IPC to ban its athletes from next month's Paralympic Games.
I'm Linda Kibe, and from Abuja, air transport employees in Abuja protest over the proposed concessioning of 4 major airports by the federal government.
We begin tonight with a pledge by the President not only to deepen the ongoing anti-corruption crusade in the country, but also to institutionalize it to last beyond the life of his current administration. Receiving the U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. John Kerry, at the Villa in Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari affirmed his commitment to setting a standard in the public service. The President said though militancy in the Niger Delta has impacted negatively on the economy, the government has shown restraint by not using real force except when constrained to do so. Before his meeting with President Buhari in Abuja, Mr. Kerry met with the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammadu Sayyad Abubakar III, and other religious leaders in the Sokoto state capital. Our State House correspondent, Shukuma Onekusi, reports.
Mr. John Kerry's first port of call is the Sokoto Caliphate. And the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar, and other religious leaders give him a rousing welcome as he makes his entry into the palace. He lauds the efforts of the Sultan in promoting religious tolerance and national unity among Nigerians and sues against extremism.
One of our tasks, one of our central tasks, and almost every single religious leader I just heard in the other room talked about this task, has to be to remove the vulnerabilities in our own position. To effectively counter violent extremism, we have to ensure that military action is coupled with a reinforced commitment to the values this region and all of Nigeria has a long legacy of supporting. Values like integrity, good governance, education, compassion, security, and respect for human rights.
Next, the visiting Secretary of State heads to the presidential villa in Abuja. He was received by the state chief of protocol, Ambassador Lawal Kazaure, who leads him upstairs in the president's office for a meeting with Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari. The president will not forget in a hurry the U.S. intervention during the 2015 general elections. He pledges to deepen the anti-corruption crusade and thanks the U.S. for their support in the fight against Boko Haram insurgency, promising not to use force on the Niger Delta militants except when constrained to do so. In his response, the U.S. Secretary of State commends the courage of President Buhari in fighting corruption and pledges to assist in tackling humanitarian challenges in the northeast with the support of UK, France and other nations. He rounded off his talks with a meeting with some northern state governors. The visit of the U.S. Secretary of State is entirely to show a commitment of the United States to the development of the Nigerian nation. But many political watchers will be saying that these meetings will not be reduced to mere talk shops. And so it is time to walk the talk. Chukwuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the president's fight against corruption has received the backing of a former military head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, who has described menace as one of the problems that have created serious setbacks in Nigeria. General Gowon was speaking to State House correspondents after a closed-door meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa. A former Nigerian leader who encouraged President Buhari not to relent in the fight against corruption and terrorism also called on Nigerians to give him the needed support.
One appreciate his effort and determination to rid the country of corruption, which certainly had been one of the problems that has created serious setback to the country, both nationally and internationally. And then, of course, yes, as you know, the current situation about the Chibok girls. The government effort to try to really get credible information about the girls and also those that can be able to deal with this problem. But the government is certainly determined to make sure that these girls are brought back home, or the number of them at least are brought back home as soon as possible, as long as certain credibility can be established, of the sources of the information where these girls. But no one knows where these girls are. No one knows yet, and all this information that you've been getting, I don't know. Certainly, it's a question that I ask. We do not yet know exactly where they are. But all effort engaging the international media and international sources so that we can, so that this matter can be dealt with.
Former military head of state Yakubu Gowon, in its bid to bring the wave of terrorism in the country to a halt, the federal government has included psychological warfare in its bag of strategies to crush terrorists and violent extremism. This was revealed in Abuja today by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The federal government is assuring Nigerians that the new strategy by the Office of the National Security Advisor will be people-centered.
The key segment of Nigeria's security landscape turn up for this event. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo represented the president.
The robust and dynamic counter-terrorism strategy is crucial in the fight against terrorism and must be constantly reviewed for relevance to contemporary challenges. Today we are gathered to launch such a policy, the revised counter-terrorism strategy. That is, the revised strategy underscores the fact that we recognize that terrorism has numerous iterations. It is not static, and our response must be dynamic and versatile. I'm pleased to confirm that this policy is fit for purpose and adequately responds to the current, imminent, and future challenges.
The first strategy, launched in 2014, did not envisage new and emerging challenges. It had to be upgraded. The National Security Advisor says the review was in compliance with a directive from President Muhammadu Buhari.
The ability of a nation to effectively respond to acts of terrorism depends on its capacity to be several steps ahead of the terrorist.
The strategy is further distilled into a handbook on safety and security tips that will be distributed to Nigerians. while state and local governments, as well as ministries and agencies, are expected to come on board for effective implementation of the revised strategy.
It is incumbent on every state governor to key in to this new strategy.
The new counterterrorism strategy also revealed the 5 threat levels in Nigeria. They are represented by colors. Red means critical, and the lowest is green, which means attack is unlikely. The Nigerian nation may bear the scar of terrorism for some time to come. When the phenomenon reared its ugly head some 7 years ago, the nation was caught napping. Its security apparatus visibly lacked the necessary coordination and cooperation to fight the menace. This revised document, therefore, it is hoped, will add impetus to the fight against terror and secure the nation both now and in future. Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, the Nigerian Army says it has killed 3 key commanders of the Boko Haram sect, while leader of the sect, Abubakar Shekau, may have been injured in the attack. According to a statement issued by the Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sani Usman, the terrorists were killed on Friday in a major airstrike on their location in Sambisa Forest. Colonel Usman adds that the bombardment was carried out on Friday, while Mr. Shekau was leading his group in performing prayers at a secret location called Tai in the heart of the vast forest. This is not the first time the military has claimed credit for killing Mr. Shekau. The sect has, however, denounced the claims each time, saying its leader remains alive. The military, on the flip side, has insisted that the original Abubakar Shekau had long been killed and that the so-called Abubakar Shekau, said to be alive, is a made-up character. 23 suspects have been arrested over an attack on a police post in Abagana area in Anambra State. The Commissioner of Police, Mrs. Sam Okaula, told journalists at the police headquarters in Oka that over 200 heavily armed hoodlums from Abagana swooped down on the police post, shooting and destroying properties. He says a security guard was killed during the attack, while 4 police officers were wounded.
Upo, a community in Dunukofia local government area of Anambra State. From the outside, everything looks calm. But further down the community, there is destruction and disaster. Buildings destroyed and police vehicles burned. An incident that happened 3 days ago. According to residents of the community, they were woken up on that fateful day by the sound of gunshots, a sound that led to this havoc allegedly wreaked by hoodlums from Abagana, a neighboring community. The incident left 1 dead and many others injured.
It will be recalled that prior to this attack, a meeting was held in the Owele Inn guest house belonging to one Emmanuel Wude, alias Owele Abagana, where the dastardly armed plan was hatched. I led a team to the scene, and based on intelligence report, we arrested 10 of the assailants from Owele guest inn, Abagana.
The mayhem is as a result of a land dispute between both communities, in which the land in contention had been sold to the police by the Upo community. The Commissioner of Police, however, maintains that nobody should take the laws into their hands.
One after the other, we are going to smoke them out and ensure that they face the full wrath of the law. And we mean every word of what we have said. Nobody can take laws into his or her hand and go scot-free. Anambra State is a peaceful state, and if you have problem, if you have any issues about land or whatever, you can go to the law courts and seek for redress. Not by taking laws into your hand and setting ablaze police property. We will not accept it. Totally unacceptable. And we're going to pursue this matter to its logical conclusion.
Meanwhile, 23 suspects have been arrested in connection with the crime. The police say investigation is on and detectives are on the trail of the ringleaders, assuring that anyone found culpable will face the full wrath of the law.
In part 2, after the break, Broadcast Organization of Nigeria strategizes on digital transition at its 65th General Assembly in Lagos. Please join us again.